Hello everyone and welcome back to the Kelly Garden channel. I'm Bridget and today we're going to talk about square foot gardening. Now this is my first time trying it. We built these 4x4 foot beds a while back and I knew I wanted to do some square foot gardening in here. Square foot gardening intrigues me because you can grow a lot more in smaller space, but you have to be very organized when you do it, which is not my strong suit. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes for me. But first, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you can grow along with us this season. And if you like this video, go ahead and tap that like button. Okay, so why square foot gardening? Square foot gardening allows you to grow more in a smaller space, right? It's a very intensive style of gardening, but your yields can be a lot higher. So what you're doing is you're setting up 1 foot by 1 foot squares, and you're using that as your guide to plant. And you may plant 1 plant per square. Some squares may get, 2 plants, 4 plants, 9 plants. I know that sounds incredible, but with beans or peas, you could put 9. Tomatoes, you might put 1. Pumpkins, they say you could do 2. And really you'd be growing off the side. So there are different ways that you could grow quite a few plants in here. The positive side of this is it's easy to set up, it's fast, and you can grow a lot more. And maintenance. Because you have so many plants, you're going to do a lot less weeding. They actually basically cover the soil and act as a weed control. Of course, you still are going to mulch a little bit, but you're going to have so many plants in here that you're not going to mulch a lot. The negative or the con side would be startup costs, because the best way to do this is in a raised bed, and you want a minimum of 6 inches, but I think that a 6-inch depth really limits you because you couldn't grow tomatoes in 6 inches. So on my bed, I have an open bottom so I can grow into the soil below, so I can grow plants that need more space, more depth. But it's a little more expensive because you're going to have to buy the material for the beds. You are going to have to water more, right? You have a lot more plants and they need a lot more watering. They take it up pretty quick. And because you're doing raised bed, you may also need to supplement nutrients a lot more. And that's because you just have so many plants that are pulling in that all those nutrients, and especially if you have heavy feeders, right, like tomatoes or something. So you might be doing a bit more of that. The other negative can be you have so many plants together, airflow can be a problem, so you may have some issues with pests and disease if you're not careful, right? So I'm going to actually show you a close-up of the bed, how to set it up, and I'll talk to you about what I'm doing, and we'll go from there, all right? Okay, so let's look at it. Okay, so this is the bed I'm starting with. And like I said, this is a 4 foot by 4 foot bed. And this is one of the no-nail beds, so it has, the little bolt in the corner, and they stack. We cut them so they stack like this. Now, when I say 4 foot by 4 foot, I'm talking about from end to end, and I'm really talking about from this outside corner. So when we go from the inside of the bed, it's actually 45 inches. So I technically don't have 48, so I'm actually going to be a little short of 12 inches. But what I did first is I measured it out and I used some pencil to mark. And like I said, I'm just shy of 12 inches because really I only have 45 inches to work with. So once I marked out on all sides, all 4 sides, and I believe it's 11 1/4 inches. Then where I made the marks, we went in and put some screws. And I used those screws to set up my string and my grid lines. Now at this stage, the other thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to bring in your irrigation. So there is a company, they're called Garden in Minutes. They actually provide beds like this. We DIY'd this, but they have some beds like this. And they also have a grid watering system that you would just lay in that I haven't used, but I've spoken to other gardeners and they really like it. So you could put that system in now or just run your lines now. And I'm actually going to run my lines, my irrigation lines here soon. I had some of these plants that I had started in pots from seed, and I just needed to get them in quickly because I'd let them spend way too much time in those pots, and I was getting a little root bound. So I've got a couple of pumpkin plants here, and I've got some melon plants and some beans in here. And what I think I'm going to do is I haven't decided, but I might be doing some corn in here, some other herbs, and then I might use the corn as shading for some lettuce. But again, I haven't totally decided yet. Okay, so when you're deciding what to plant in here, and I'll provide a link in the description below, but like I said, you can look at your squares and you can say, okay, one, what do I want to companion plant together? And really thinking about not just what you want to consume, so what you want like tomatoes or peppers or cucumbers or squash, zucchini, but you're also going to think about, remember you're doing some pretty intensive, they're pretty close together, but also your pollinators. Do you want to bring in some flowers into this so we get those pollinators in here? And using plants to help other plants. So what plants will go well together? What plants will protect each other. I said I might grow corn in here, and with corn I can definitely do peas or beans. It can grow up the corn. Corn can actually block some other plants, providing shading for those plants, so that's kind of nice. So those are things to think about. And like I said, which squares are going to have one plant, your tomatoes or your peppers, which squares may have two or more, like your cucumbers, and which ones are going to have even more than that, right? Up to 9. If you're doing, say, every 3 inches, every 4 inches. So first and foremost, go ahead and draw out your grid. Second, look at what you want to grow. Look at your seed packets or your planting chart to see how much space you need to plant those, plus the spread, how much they're going to spread later when they hit maturity. So those are some considerations when you're doing this and when you're planting it out. For me on the corn, they recommend 1 corn stalk per, and I'm probably going to go more than that. I want my corn to be in blocks and I want it to be closer together. This is a high wind area. Last season my corn got blown over, a couple of them did. So I want to make sure I put them closer together. It'll help them pollinate better. And then it may also help them with that wind issue. I may have to build a little screen for it. So, and the other thing when you're doing this is think about the plants that you want to maybe grow over the side. So I have my pumpkin plants that I know are going to grow over the side. I have some of these melon plants that I'm going to trellis. And trellising is another way to extend this. So I have this cattle panel off to the side that I'm going to use that's here, but I could also put some trellising in the bed itself or staking when I stake it. So that's something to think about. I thought about doing peanuts in here, and peanuts need a lot of room and they could grow over near the edges, but peanuts need a lot of sun and they might be blocked by some of the other plants. So I'm not going to do that. So some things to think about. This area gets a lot of sun, so it would only be the plants that would block each other from that. But I am excited to try it. I think it'll be a fun little experiment for me. I have a lot of plants that are being grown in containers this season. If you've watched some of the other videos, you know that we're kind of in transition. So even though we're on 3 acres or 3.5 acres, we're only using a small space to grow in. So this will be a fun little experiment for me. 1, to see if I'm organized enough to do it, and 2, to see what it's like to grow that much in one space. So if you have any questions, let us know down in the description below. I'll also provide some resources down there, like the Garden in Minutes links. They have a bed like this. They also have a watering system. And the good thing about that watering system is it sprays in from all sides. When I run my drip line, you know, I'm only getting drips at certain locations. This actually sprays all into the middle of these squares. So that, to me, seems like a pretty good system. So, but if you have any questions, let me know. I'll let you guys know how it goes throughout the season. And again, thank you for joining me, and I will talk to you again soon. Happy gardening.